Well, hi everyone. I'm sitting here in Ben's famous van, legendary van called Ronnie, and I thought you might let's have a quick look inside his van. Ben, do you want to have a quick scan? He's done it all himself. So Ben's been living with us for the last 5 weeks, and I said to you I'd like to send out some more thoughts and reflections, and I particularly mindful of the fact that we are 5 weeks into this lockdown, and I don't know about you. After Easter, I certainly picked up a general sense of weariness. Easter was great, but a general sense of when are we going to get out of this thing, and is there any way forward? And there's a kind of a novelty at the beginning, I guess, for lots of us, and now we're thinking, well, what next, and what is going to happen? What's happening in the country, and our own experience of sadness, of course, as a community. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, because in my understanding of faith, it's entirely right to give expression to our deepest feelings, and sometimes those feelings are to do with grief and sadness. And I think it's so important at this time that we give ourselves permission to express that, whilst at the same time not losing sight of hope. And somehow, I think in the Christian faith, you can hold those two things together, and I think at the beginning of all of this, there was a great sense of hope, optimism, strength, and none of that I want to lose. But I also think it's important, alongside that there are times when we can give vent to our frustration, maybe even anger. I don't know, whatever it is you're feeling. We have huge encouragement to do this in the Bible. The book of Psalms, of course, is what I'm talking about. And somehow the psalmist is able to tutor us in honesty and emotion, rawness, whilst guiding us towards hope and even praise and even joy. At the same time, we think, how does that happen? Well, it can happen as we bring everything before God in our life of prayer. So I want to encourage you to do that. I imagine for some of you, this has been, many of you, if not all of us, an extremely challenging time. And it's really important that we keep faith and trust and hope, but it's also important to be able to pray in this way. One of my favourite psalms, just to draw this little reflection to a close, is Psalm 55, and you have everything in there. At the beginning of the psalm, he talks about, oh, that I had the wings of a dove, I would fly away. And gosh, how many of us have thought that over the last few weeks? If only I could get out of this thing. Where do you go? There's nowhere to go. So we're stuck. And then in the psalm, not only does he give vent to his desire to flee, but also his anger, his frustration. He's clearly been let down. He's been betrayed. He gives a feeling of, brings all of that anger before God. And then as the psalm meanders through, and it is a meandering. I don't know about you, sometimes my prayers are often a meandering and a wandering and a muttering and Dave Hanson's phrase, a long wandering prayers, eventually gets to the end where he's able to just throw all of that before God and say, cast your cares upon the Lord because he cares for you. It's a kind of encouragement to all of us to each day gather up our anxieties, our fears, our concerns, and well, it's a very violent word that's used in the psalm, to literally throw them, cast them upon God, and try and resist the temptation to pick them up again, to actually give them to him. to not carry the weight of the world on our shoulders, but to entrust them into God's hands. I'm with Ben here, and a few years ago we were in New York together, of all places, and we went to see the back of the altar there in St. Patrick's Church on Fifth Avenue. There's a life-size statue of the boy Jesus, and he's carrying the world there effortlessly in his hand. And I've told the illustration before. Bruce Larson, the pastor, lives nearby, often takes one of his congregants to that place and says, look, how do you want to live? Do you want to live like Atlas, who's just under the Rockefeller, carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, or do you want to, or would you entrust all of this into Jesus' hands and let him carry it for you? So I want to encourage you at this time, encourage myself when I get weary to do exactly that, to cast your cares upon the Lord, because he cares for you, and also because he will sustain you.